There are days in sports that just stop you cold. Days where you check your phone, see a notification, and your brain refuses to accept what your eyes are reading. May 21st, 2026 was one of those days for NASCAR. And honestly, for anyone who has spent years watching this sport, loving it, hating it, arguing about it, this one is going to leave a mark. Today we are talking about two stories that collided to make this one of the most emotional moments the NASCAR garage has experienced in a very long time. One is a devastating loss. The other is a tribute so powerful it speaks to everything this sport is actually about beneath the surface. Together, they are going to define the feeling around this entire Charlotte weekend and possibly the rest of the 2026 season. Kyle Busch died on Thursday, May 21st, at the age of 41. NASCAR, Richard Childress Racing, and the Busch family issued a joint statement confirming the news, and the reaction across motorsports was immediate and overwhelming grief. According to reports, Busch had been testing in the Chevrolet racing simulator in Concord, North Carolina on Wednesday when he became unresponsive and was transported to a hospital in Charlotte. His family later revealed that severe pneumonia had progressed into sepsis, leading to rapid and overwhelming complications. 3 days before he was supposed to line up on the grid for the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, one of the most competitive and recognizable names in NASCAR history was gone. This was not a story about a driver from a different era. This was Kyle Busch, still racing, still competing every single week, still grinding through a 22nd full-time Cup Series season, still trying to find his way back to victory lane. He was active. He was present. He was still very much part of this sports story in 2026. What made this even harder to process was the timing. Just 11 days earlier, Busch had been on the radio during the race at Watkins Glen asking his crew to get a doctor ready because he was physically struggling during the event. Broadcast reports noted that a sinus illness had been made significantly worse by the intense G-forces and elevation changes at the New York road course. And what did Kyle Busch do? He finished 8th. That was entirely in character. The man simply did not quit. And then the very next weekend at Dover, he climbed into a truck for Spire Motorsports and won the race. Standing in victory lane, someone asked him how many more wins he wanted before he eventually called it a career. His answer was simple and real. You never know when the last one will be, so you cherish every single one of them. That turned out to be his last victory. Dover was the last time Kyle Busch stood in victory lane. The statistics are extraordinary. 63 Cup Series victories, 102 wins in the Xfinity Series, 69 Truck Series victories, a combined 234 wins across NASCAR's 3 National Series, the most in history, 2 Cup Championships, in 2015 and 2019, both with Joe Gibbs Racing, a win in a Cup Series race in 19 consecutive seasons from 2005 through 2023. Those numbers put him in a category very few drivers have ever reached. But the numbers are honestly only part of it. What made Kyle Busch genuinely irreplaceable was his personality, his fire, and the way he refused to let anybody forget he was there. Love him or hate him, and the NASCAR fan base was deeply divided for years. You could not ignore him. He was aggressive. He was outspoken. He raced every lap like his career depended on it. He had feuds. He had moments that made you shake your head. He also had moments that reminded you were watching one of the rare talents that a sport produces maybe once in a generation. The tributes from drivers and insiders came immediately and hit hard. Denny Hamlin, who had a complicated and very public relationship with Busch in recent months, spoke about being unable to comprehend the news. Brad Keselowski called it an absolute shock. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. talked about how racing against Kyle pushed everyone around him to be better. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jimmy Johnson, and Jeff Gordon all shared emotional words. Those responses said everything, because these are people who competed with him, clashed with him, and understood better than anyone just how much Kyle Busch demanded of himself and everyone around him. His journey was not always smooth. Early in his career, Hendrick Motorsports let him go to make room for Dale Earnhardt Jr., and instead of folding, Busch landed at Joe Gibbs Racing and built something historic. When sponsorship issues ended that chapter after 2022, he moved to Richard Childress Racing and kept fighting. The wins did not come as easily. There were frustrations. There were debates about whether the elite level of performance was still there. But the guy never stopped competing. Even this season, even without a cup win, he was still showing up and still pushing. In the immediate aftermath of the news, Richard Childress Racing made a decision that genuinely moved a lot of people. The number 8 Chevrolet, the car Kyle Busch had driven at Arcia, would be temporarily retired. Not permanently, but specifically preserved, with the acknowledgement that it could one day return to the Cup Series, driven by Brexton Busch, Kyle's 11-year-old son. Think about what that means. Arcia is holding that number for a child who has not even started his racing career, out of respect for the man who sat in that seat and gave everything he had every single weekend. The team will move forward running the number 33 for the foreseeable future. That is not just a racing decision. That is a statement about legacy, about family, and about what Kyle Busch meant to the people who worked alongside him every day. Brexton has already shown serious talent at the karting level. Whether or not that path ever leads to the Cup Series is a story that will unfold over years. But the idea that the number 8 might be waiting for him someday, that is the kind of detail that puts a lump in your throat. The Coca-Cola 600 on Sunday is going to carry a weight that goes beyond racing. Every driver introduction, every moment of silence, every tribute graphic, every conversation in the garage. Fans at Charlotte and fans watching from home are going to feel the absence of a driver who was supposed to be on that starting grid. Austin Hill will step into the number 8 car for the race weekend while the organization processes everything happening around them. That is a difficult position for any driver to be in, and honestly the entire RCR team is going through something no one should have to navigate in the middle of a race weekend. NASCAR without Kyle Busch is genuinely hard to picture. For the better part of 2 decades, he was one of the loudest, most polarizing, most brilliant presences in the sport. Whether he was the villain fans were rooting against or the champion they could not help respecting, he was always unforgettable. He was always compelling. And he always showed up ready to race. The last win was at Dover. The last comeback was real. The last quote was about cherishing every single one. Rest in peace, Kyle Busch. NASCAR will not be the same without you.